Go to multi-stream. And we'll see what happens, everybody. All right, so let's see. May as well record this. It's weird, I don't know why I did that, but things are coming along. Let's see, I'm gonna have to open that up. Bear with me, everybody. That looks good. That a little larger. Okay. There we go. And we'll test this. Let's see. Hey, Nomad Farmer. Killer. Okay. Bear with me, everybody. It's always a new day and a new thing. Okay. Let's see. What's something cool that we could check out for a moment while I test everything. Check out my subscriptions. Let's see what's some good music here. Do. Juilliard. Let's see. Just all the subscriptions of pretty much all these, or most of these, are channels that we've checked out. Oh yeah, here. This should be good. 10 minutes. Okay. I'll be right back. That's not okay. That fixed it. Sorry, everybody, about that. But okay, I think it's fixed. Hey, this was a weird lighting effect. This is a different room of the Pennsylvania house that I'm in. It looks like just somebody reply, Bertie Wooster or somebody, and just let me know that you can hear me. All of a sudden, all the sound dropped for some reason. I don't know why. But I'm back. We're back. It's great to see everybody that's watching. Yeah, okay. Thank you. Thank you, Bertie. All right. And I'm in Pennsylvania right now. I was in California. Hey, Bob. Great. Happy that you're watching. And we were just checking out the great Eddie's Taraful. Taraf it's like the name for a band. And with Marian Mexicano. And I think Eddie and Marian are maybe father and son, something like that. Anyways, let me know if the level of the microphone is good too. I think it is good, but it's a different mic than I usually use. So on today's stream, it's great to see everybody. On today's I want to bring this closer to me, but I'm terrified to touch anything that'll unplug. So we'll leave it as it is. On today's stream, the theme is emotional health, and emotional health. And so I'm going to share my journey and some ideas that I have around emotional health for musicians. We have some cool videos, of course, as usual. Even just listening to this music that we started with, which is, I think, somebody's event, looked like a wedding or something, usually is, just brings so much joy to my heart. Music is healing. And for the musician, sometimes making music is not healing. Is not healing, I should say more clearly. So we're going to talk about that. Okay, Heather can hear me now. Thanks so much, Heather. Okay, good to know. And so let's see. Before I do get we'll talk about that stuff soon. But before, let's listen to a little bit of stuff. So let's see. I know what I want to hear next. Give me 1 second. I'm going to go into my email. So somebody emailed me some amazing Ernie Felice stuff. I have checked out Ernie Felice over the years, but they sent me some great stuff. In fact, actually, I haven't watched this one. So let's start with one that I have watched, which is it's a collection that's not on Spotify, which is fun. It's only on YouTube as far as I can find it. It's live radio. Check this out. This is really cool. So there's no video. So if you're just listening like Nomad Farmer and cruising around your house doing stuff, you're not missing anything. But this is great. This is swing era stuff. Ernie Felice is an accordionist who was in one of Benny Goodman's small groups. He's I would call him a real true swing accordion player. Jazz accordion player, but swing. And not really what we might call a bebop accordion player. Not to put labels on everybody to say what they are or not, but just I don't know, to kind of understand them. So let's check out what this version of "I Can't Give You Anything But Love," which just is so cool. It's got all of that stuff from that period. So it's got like this small group arrangement. You've got, in this case, you have clarinet and accordion. I sent this to two people. I sent this to a friend, an accordion player friend here in this town of Bethlehem. And I sent this to a great accordion player that happens to be taking some accordion lessons with me. And their reply, the first thing they both said was, it sounds like a big band. Like the way Ernie Felice is playing with the clarinet in there, the way Ernie's right-hand chords and stuff are with the clarinet sounds like the sax section of a big band, basically. And I hear it too. It's really cool. Ernie's playing all these closed position chord voicings, which means not the really spread ones, but the really close ones that are, I don't know, the first way, like that you would think to play a chord, usually. Not like the drop two, the really open voicings that like Frank Morocco and those guys, Eddie Montero play. What else to say about it? I don't know. Enjoy. Here we go.
Oh, the Ernie Felice Quartet, yeah. There's something about diamond bracelets Woolworth doesn't sell, Francie. A silk and satin arrangement of "I Can't Give You Anything But Love."
So good.
From the Swank Coca Club of the Revolution Hotel in Beverly Hills, California, we've been meeting stars in the afternoon. At the traveling mic has been ABC's exclusive Hollywood reporter, Francis Scully. Orchestra songs and boutonnieres were especially designed for us by Pico Westwood Flowers. And on to the exciting new Orney Police Quartet and Hollywood top fashion reporter, Francis Scully. This is George Steinman saying so long until next Saturday, when we'll meet again over most of these ABC.
How cool is that? So there's a whole, I don't know, record of stuff. I guess I don't know like where this came from. It's on this. What is this guy? Danish or something? Yeah, I think he's, or no, Dutch. I think he's Dutch because I translated. What is that? The word.
Oh, yeah.
Dragspell. Dragspell here is like Dutch for accordion.
Oh, the Orney Police.
Sorry. Anyways, that is just so good. I just love it. I mean, there's not a whole lot of improvised blowing there, but like everything, you know, those cool composed shout choruses or, you know, new melodies over the form. Everything is just so killing. Really amazing. And I agree with you, Bob. Yeah, it can swing so hard. So let's see. Let's listen to one more, and then maybe I'll talk a little bit. Let's see. What else did I have on this little playlist? Oh, I'll add this to the playlist. Save right there. If you ever want to, you know, re-listen to just the tunes that you hear me play, most of them I save on playlists that I make public on my Rising Read YouTube channel. So if you go to the channel, then you can see my playlists, and you can see I have like tons of playlists, but they're all like this one would say videos for October 22nd. And this channel has a bunch of different stuff. Yeah. Some cool like Western swing by this accordion player. Bill first turned me on. Bill's watching today. George Bambi is like, I think one of the heaviest Western swing accordion players there was. Well, why don't we check this one out? This is on the same YouTube channel. So this is Honeysuckle Rose by Andy Parker and his plainsman, although the accordion player's name is George Bambi. Okay, now, extra credit points for the first person in the chat who can tell me what is the significance of this arrangement. Oops. Sorry. All right. Well, it is Halloween season. So I'm having Halloween candy. Let's see. What do we got? I agree. Pedal steel guitar player. Amazing. Bob says in the chat, as is the accordionist. I agree. I feel the same way. And I gotta say, whoever runs this YouTube channel has great taste in music. I thank them for uploading all this stuff. So that's George Bambi on the accordion. Just as like a swing head, me, I would say I'm an aficionado of swing accordion playing as well as being a player. There's a way of phrasing that I would just do differently than George Bambi. He cuts off things a little too short. I don't know exactly how to articulate it, but I prefer the Ernie Felice's swing phrasing a little better. But hey, I mean, we all sound different, and just still great playing. So I just searched up George Bambi, and let me know. I'm trying to get rid of the plosives. Heather was telling me there's plosives. Peas poppin'. And I don't want to do that. I'm using a different mic than I usually use. I usually use a large diaphragm condenser. Let me reply to this. Let's see. November 4th. Let's see. It's like an important meeting. Okay. So anyway, George Bambi here with Spade Cooley. That's the one that Bill in Chicago sent me. And Spade Cooley is another dude. We're not doing a Western swing themed show today, but if we were, or when we do, rather, we'll definitely get into George Bambi with Spade Cooley. And there's a couple other really famous swing accordion players that are parallel with that. Okay, Bob says it's less plosive. Thank you. And yeah, just that, man, once the or the pedal steel guitar player comes in, I mean, it swings even harder. It's I don't know, something about his phrasing is just really killing. Okay, well, before we go on too much, and I appreciate everybody, so here's the topic for the day, which is emotional health. The way these are just, it looks like I'm like washed out or in like a vignette, a cameo or something like that 70s style. Okay, cool. Thanks, Heather. Yeah, I'm just further away from the microphone. Before I was right up on it. But I'm not. Anyway, that's just those like white marks are not washed out stuff. It's just light coming in from the windows. Today's theme is about emotional health. And let's see. The peas poppin' are back. Okay, well, I'll try to be here. I'm trying to think, do I have any... I do have little covers, but I left those in California. I did not remember to bring those. Thinking, you know what? With this one, I don't know. Here, I'm gonna try that. That's just a little bit of foam to protect the peas, to absorb the. Let me get closer to the mic. Let's try that. Let me know if the peas are gonna pop here. Are the peas popping? Polly Pocket, Peter Parker. Okay, so on emotional health, so I would imagine everybody struggles with emotional health, and I think the setup for it is like, how is it? Thanks, Bertie Wooster. How is emotional health related to playing accordion, or why is it so pronounced? I would say it's because of presentness. So. Just in the same way that if we were just left alone by ourselves in a room for hours, our own head and machinations would start up, and our interior voice that talks to us, however we see that, would start working. And then just the craft of practicing and performing both, but especially practicing the accordion is where a musician spends the majority of their time, usually most musicians, compared to performing, is so solitary and filled with so much effort, and so much repetition, that I think the act of the solitary voice there, as far as like how mental health, emotional health I'm using those interchangeably, relates to a musician is just, it's just so pronounced, you know. We're just with ourselves, you know, working on something challenging, and we are filled with all this passion and all this want and desire to get better. And here we are trying to do a thing, trying to do a passage in something that's, you know, I don't need to tell you guys, it's very challenging. And so that the inner voice that helps us, I mean, it wants us to be good. It wants to set this high bar, and it starts talking to us. And I think that is a big component of emotional health for a musician, is getting that in check. And so in a minute, I'm going to like talk about that, and I'll be interested if anybody, whatever insights we have. But I'd like to share some of my own journey. I'm not going to share details, but a lot of you know, because a lot of you watching are my students or on the email, like get my email newsletter, which you can get if you go to risingread.com. I send out just about every week. I send out just an email, usually the day of the live stream, and I tell you usually that the live stream is happening, sometimes that the live stream is not happening, and then the graphic and what the theme is and the links and all that sort of stuff. And then, so anyway, but basically I'm trying to tell you that in that newsletter, I've also been sharing some of my personal life, which is that my dad passed away last year, and that was really hard. That was filled with a lot of just good old grief. And then with that was inheriting this house, which is a great and amazing, you know, generational wealth thing that he left to me. But also responsibility, and something that's challenging because it's across the country from me. And my life is based here in Pennsylvania. And so in order to, like, it's in the desert of California, and the desert eats everything. It is a very inhospitable environment, which causes everything to decay and break. And already, you know, I've left the house for a couple months and come back, and all the sinks and toilets are leaking because the gas gets dried out, and just all this stuff. And because I've been a renter my whole adult life, I have like not zero, but very few handyman skills. And it's just a big pain. And I have a family member now that, two family members who are dependent people. They're not able to take care of themselves, and I'm the last one left. And that's a very personal thing to share with the world, but it's true. And those things, and then other things, my childhood, etc., other things in my life, which I won't go into detail, but those are all like these layers. So the last few months, it just came to a time in my life when I, with the help of loved ones and friends and stuff, you know, nobody like urging me, but, you know, everybody giving me help and feedback. I just, you know, decided I needed to go, you know, find a therapist and start working on myself. And so I did, and I started therapy, and I haven't been in therapy for 10 years. And it's been great. And I want to share a little bit of that, and I want to share, because that's where I'm at right now. It's also the reason why I've skipped a few live streams, which I'll tell you about, which is something really cool that I did for myself. And it's just good. It's just good. I mean, it's me being real and sharing my real life with you guys. It is weird because I've never shared anything this personal to the world on the internet, and I don't even really want to. Like, I don't necessarily want to open up my life, but I think in this case it makes sense to, because the biggest theme of this live stream is about exploring ourselves and the beauty of the world, the beauty of life, of the human experience through music, through the accordion. That's what you guys like about what I find in music. That's the exchange that we have. I would say the exchange of energy, I would say, is what you guys like. That's why you're here, you know, is that you love that. And we look for people who talk about ways to feel more deeply and express more deeply and do cool things, you know, all that sort of stuff on the accordion. And in order to do that, you have to be, in order to live life, you know, you have to be emotionally regulated and stuff. And we all go through periods of time where we're feeling happier or sadder and more functional and less functional. And I think to be able to do that through a musical instrument or any performance art, you know, where you are expressing your emotion, the more deeply in contact, the more we can feel, the more we can express, and find stuff, the better, the easier it's going to be to do all that out of the instrument, you know? So to share like a little bit of, stuff like I found through help, like friends, I found my way to like a good therapist, and that was because I had a close friend who was able to really give me some expert help, because this close friend just became a therapist themselves, and that's like gold, to have. Like, it's like if a friend of yours is an attorney and you need an attorney, you know what I mean? Just like to have an expert in something like that. And this friend suggested a way to help me search. That was a big thing, and that's something that I feel like I have a much better handle on right now, and I just want to share that really quick, because I've also given this advice to another friend this morning, who reached out to me and just asked for help about that. And I'm gonna tell you guys what I just told my friend, which is what I've sort of figured out, and it's worked for me, which is, let's do it together. Go to Psychology Today. I think this is really good, because it's like, say you want to get into therapy. It's like, what do you do? How do you find someone that's good for you? And I think this is really useful. So this is what I did and what works. And I'm not going to tell you who I saw or anything like that, but I'm just going to tell you how to use this website, and then what I suggest you do, if this is something. So you're limited by where you live. So if you are residing in Pennsylvania, you can only see therapists that are in Pennsylvania. If you reside in Florida, you can only see therapists that reside in Florida, but you could see anyone, via telehealth. They can be anywhere. And then you have to figure out how you're going to pay for it. So let's just pretend like we're in Florida, for example. So this is what I would suggest. Just pick the whole state, and then go to your filters right here. So the website is Psychology Today. Then you go to the filters, and you just start picking the stuff. So for some people, it's really important the gender of the therapist, for them to feel safe and connected, because it's like the majority of the success you get is if you feel comfortable with the therapist, like they have to be a good therapist, but you have to feel comfortable to share and all this sort of stuff. So you want a female or a male or somebody that's non-binary, or you don't care, you leave it blank. And then if you feel really strongly like you only want to see somebody in person, which I would suggest you consider doing telehealth, because so many more options are available, but you can do that. This is one I absolutely suggest you click. It'll help your results, is click available. Because that means that they're accepting new patients. Now, a lot of time, or sometimes that's inaccurately represented on this site, so you call and then you find out they're actually not accepting new patients. That's okay, but it helps to whittle it down. And then there's some stuff here, like this is where you want to figure out what you have going on. So this is going to be your beginning learning process of your issues, like what am I trying to work on? And who do I think can help me? So I would say, if you have some knowledge, then you can click stuff. If you don't, just start Googling, and just whatever your intuition is telling you is the thing that you're going to work on with this therapist. Start Googling blah, blah, blah kind of thing. And then what's the best therapy to help, or the most effective therapy? Because there are all these different kinds of modalities. They're called modalities. So like I'm sure everyone's heard of like Freudian analysis is like a very, very old school kind of a thing. And there are people that still do it and still get help. And then you've got something like EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, which is not brand new, but it's much newer. So I'll use those two as like a continuum there. So like something that's like 100 years old and something that's maybe, 30 years old or something like that, right? And there are studies, and you'll just find a lot of information on if you Google your symptoms, or the more you know about yourself and can start to learn. You don't have to know everything, but just start to learn it, and start to ask Google, like, what are the best modalities for helping the thing that you have? So if you have like a lot of childhood abuse and trauma that's messing you up, then you want to go down here. Let's see, where is it? And you want to find trauma and PTSD, because that's a heavy kind of thing that you have, that like a basic, a general, not every therapist is going to be able to help you with that. They're not trained in it. That's a special kind of thing. And you want to make sure that you find somebody that's like equipped to handle you, that knows who you are already before you walk through the door. So I'd also say, if you're a transgender person, click that, because you want to know that somebody that you're going to see is hip to all that. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to have to explain who you are to the therapist that you're going to see. So I'm not going to go into any more of that stuff, but use this, do a process of like Googling your stuff, inform yourself, and then click through here and click the stuff that you want. And then it's going to like, it's going to limit it. So let's just say, for example, that substance use and addiction is something. Let's say we'll do alcohol use and have addiction. Yeah, addiction. This is our example. So let's say that that's something that I want to work on. And then you can choose your insurance, right? So insurances that you have, again, you still got to like call the place and verify that they take your insurance. But this saves a ton of time. And I think this is like better than using your insurance website, because the insurance website won't let you search for all these things as well as Psychology Today. And then you get down to like more like modalities, like I was talking about, as far as like the types of things. So like if you wanted like Freudian analysis or Gestalt, if you know the type of therapy that you're looking for, like the one that I started, which has been amazing for me, is called internal family systems. It's so cool. The theory behind that is that all of us have multiple personalities, including the people that are labeled with something called multiple personality disorder. Like, so, and every person that isn't is a series of, they call them parts. And so with the things that are bothering you, you find these parts, which often like relate to your childhood stuff, traumas that have happened to you in the past. And you understand those sort of impulses, even when they're not helpful. Like most of the time they're not helpful anymore, because they were designed to sort of keep you functioning as a child or whatever, or a younger person, or it can even come from adult traumatic experiences. But you take those and you kind of see them as parts of yourself, as personalities, and you form a relationship with them and you talk to them. It sounds crazy, but I'm telling you, just look it up. Internal family systems. It's really great, and I would recommend it. You know, I would say check it out at the very least. I can tell you I'm doing it and I'm finding like a ton of help from it. It's really, really cool. And that one's listed right here. So this is just a little example of this. This is my PSA for everybody out there. And then, you know, I think for most of us, you're all adults, but if you happen to not be, if you're looking for your kid or whatever, you can find these other things. And then if ethnicity is something, again, like there's a lot of stuff with therapy where you want to feel like somebody understands you. And so if speaking to a therapist that is, you know, labeled as Black or African American really makes you feel understood, maybe because you are, and you feel like there are things about your identity in your life that you won't have to explain to somebody. You know what I mean? Same as if you're LGBTQ or you're a trans person or whatever. Like a lot of those can save you a lot of time and just lead to a lot quicker path, you know, or just things are working or not. So all that stuff, select anything that you think might apply, select it. And of course, if you speak languages other than English, faith, all that kind of stuff. And then you hit go show, and then you have all these therapists. And so the more stuff that you can click in there, the more you can whittle it down. So in all of Florida, there's like 300 and whatever people listed here. So that would be impossible to go through all of them. But that gives you a start. And, you know, the more you click, the more the more you start calling people or learning, the more you will be able to add more of these filters. You'll figure out more stuff that you're working on and more of who you're looking for, and your list will get smaller, which will be easier to manage. And then just like shopping for a car, you figure out the kind of car you want and the specifications, and then you put together a list. You find 6 of those cars that are for sale, like used cars. I want a used Honda CR-V between this year and this year with this amount of miles, and I don't care about the color, or I do. You get a list of about 6 of them, and you try to just go see them. So with the way therapy works these days is you just contact these people, contact the therapist. You can click through. You click through to the like this guy. You click through. You call him up. You leave a message or whatever, and then they call you back. And you somehow set up an appointment to ask them your questions, and they're going to ask, "Who are you? What's going on with you?" And you should ask them, you know, what I think is the great question to ask, or other things to look for. Let's see here. There's another thing to look for. Here's my suggestion. And this is just my opinion, but you can scroll down to see how many years of practice they've been there for. And for me, I want somebody who's not fresh out of school, who's seen a bunch of people like me, like the things that I'm going through. I want them to have met and encountered in many people before me and had success. That's what I want. And that's who I want to pay, And so for me, the number is like kind of 5 to whatever. And then, there are other things, like maybe you want to make sure like that you just want to kind of find people who you feel like are going to understand you, So anyway, like I was saying, you make your list of 6, you call them, and then you tell them, as much as you feel comfortable about who you are. And I suggest you ask them specifically, like after you've sort of explained it, if they feel like they can help you, and if they feel like they have helped similar people to you before, because they might not have, you might be doing something, there might be something that you're trying to work on that they just don't do. There's a lot of specialists and specialties and all kinds of myriad ways of doing mental health, and different things work for different people. So that's my little PSA for all of you, and sort of what I learned. And I'm sharing it because it's relatively simple and a lot of people don't know how to do it. If you're looking for a psychiatrist, like maybe you're just like, I know that I want medication. So they have psychiatrists that you can hit from the drop-down menu, and then you can put your zip code too, which will really limit it to, like if you need to see somebody in person, you can really limit it to that, or your health network or whatever zip code could help with. So that's the little thing there about just using this awesome website called Psychology Today to search for a therapist. Again, nothing to do with music, but in my searches, I found people who were like doing like the internal family systems thing, which I knew that I wanted to look for and try out because I had watched videos based on what my friend had told me, and it seemed cool, and they seemed really, really into it. So, like referral from somebody that is like pretty much the best thing. Somebody telling you this is great and you should try it. And then I found some overlap with therapists, not the ones that I ended up choosing, but people who are like performance practice, like either a sports psychologist, which really overlaps with a lot of the people that do sports psychology also do performing arts psychology, same sort of stuff. So like, for example, if you're somebody for whom like performance anxiety has like really been a huge trouble your entire life, and you want to work on it, like you can find these people out there that are specialized in this, and then you just spend some of your hard-earned money on it, and then everything's better. Because like with I think I would think everybody watching would agree that like emotional mental health, right, is the number one component. Like it's true physical health too, but like you could have everything. You could be a billionaire, and if you're depressed, you feel like you have nothing, like it's worth nothing. So it really is like so tremendously important. So that's that. And now I want to share a little bit of why I did not do the live stream the last 2 weeks. And that's because I spent a bunch of money on something called ketamine therapy. Ketamine therapy is presented in a few different ways. I have a friend who works at a clinic that does it in another state. And this is a friend I've known for a long, long time, decades. And she has been working there for a while. I don't want to say too many details about them, but basically she, even before the idea for me to do ketamine therapy came about, I was talking to this friend, and she was telling me how amazing this therapy was, and how much change she's seen in people in a very short amount of time, and radical change, especially with depression. And so that was already on my radar. I had already heard these stories and had heard like really, her story and then what she's seen and experienced working at the clinic. So like, okay, wow, it's on my radar. It hadn't been before. I just knew about ketamine as a drug that they do in Europe, I guess. Like that's always what it seemed to me. I don't really know. And a horse tranquilizer, something like that. And then a therapist that I was considering working with suggested that I do it. It was just based on an intake form. And she brought some things to light for me and said, you should work on these things. And I suggest the way you do it is ketamine therapy. So that started me on a journey of understanding what it is, where I could do it at, and how much it would be and how it would work and all that sort of stuff, and then ultimately doing it. And I did, and I finished it last week. On Wednesday was my 6th treatment, and it's been pretty amazing. I mean, I'm still just me. I'm not a superhero or anything. I don't feel like a superhero. I feel much better, and I feel really super motivated. Like, comparing how I feel today versus how I felt the day before I started ketamine therapy is really truly night and day for me. And I from what I understand, it's pretty reflective and representative of a lot of people's experience. Like, every ketamine clinic claims a number around like 80%, 70 to 80% of people that do this therapy get like really, really drastic, amazing results. It doesn't help everybody. I don't know. I don't think anything does. But for me, it's been really awesome, and I think the positive effects are still happening. I would describe it like, now having done all of the infusions, and we'll watch a little video because there's like a bunch of videos. We'll watch a video to show you guys like what it is. The way to like use a analogy to describe it is like, in the way that steroids would create from somebody that wanted to bulk up, steroids would in a short amount of time create huge muscles. And let's, for this metaphor, don't think about all the negative things that steroids do. Just pretend like it's only good things. But that's the chemical that you put into your body, but you still have to go to the gym. You still have to move all the weights. You still have to eat tons and tons of food. You still got to eat tons of calories. You got to sleep. You got to hydrate. You got to wake up. You have to want it. You have to work really hard. But with the same work that you're putting in, the results are, could not be achieved, without, and are really remarkable. I would describe like my experience to be like that. So I have continued to go to see a therapist, and actually I doubled up because the suggestion from my friend who works at the clinic was to get a therapist that's associated with the clinic that you're going to. And so I took her advice because I just wanted to get the best possible result out of this thing. And I want to make, it's a lot of money. I want to make like the biggest change in my life that I possibly can. So I want to do like everything that everybody knows makes you have the best experience. So what it ended up being, and I've asked everybody, like, okay, I've asked all the nurses, all the doctors, all my friends, like I've looked on the subreddit for ketamine therapy, like, what does everybody say? And pretty much everybody says, you definitely want to be going to therapy, and then you want to do all of the self-reflexive things. So you want to, because what's happened, which we'll learn in this video, is the ketamine affects your brain by, I think it's glutamate, I believe it is the chemical that hits these certain receptors, and it makes your brain have the ability to have neuroplasticity again. And that allows, like, people call it a rewiring or a reset. So you can create new pathways for stuff. I know, like, the feeling of it is this feeling of sort of not being so stuck and bound down, feeling like overburdened to the point of like, I can barely make this decision. I can barely think of a solution that works. I can barely see a way out of this. Like, the problem seems just so thick, like, well, it's this thing, but then that person's going to do that and that won't work. And then, then there's 8 million steps, and each step is like the same feeling, to sort of describe where I was at. And the difference is, like, since the ketamine like started working, which I would say, I mean, immediately I felt some change, but really after the 3rd session, I felt like, whoa, this is like, I feel a lot better and I feel a lot more able to do stuff. But the difference to describe would be like the same problem. I would be like, okay, what should I do? The solution is I should do this. Oh yeah, I can do that. And I will do it. And then I'll do that. Okay, cool. And this, and there's anxiety around the future. Well, that's okay, because being able to sort of rationalize anxiety or use like, where anxiety would like totally mire me and I would feel sort of powerless or really stuck. I'm feeling like many more ways to still use techniques. Like I'm still asking therapists, like, what is anxiety? Like, how can I deal with it? How can I get out of it? Like what, it's this morning I woke up feeling tons of it. What can I do? What is it? And learning, and then learning like these little tricks. Like one thing I learned, which I would credit ketamine for it being maybe more useful than it otherwise would. But this trick of like feeling anxiety, and then now I know that the anxiety that I'm feeling is related to the future. And it's an unknown thing. There's mystery and usually badness. Like the what I project in the future is not good for me, whatever it is. And it's just these little things to worry about that I don't want to care about, but they're in my brain. And I will know that, okay, I'm not being present in this moment. So one of the things I'm going to do is this little trick of 3-3-3. So I'll stop, I'll breathe a little bit. And you could do this with me right now, whether you feel anxiety or not. And then we'll just listen and see if you hear 3 things. Do you hear 3 different things? I hear like 2. It's a really quiet room right now. I hear like, anyway, you don't need to know what I hear, but 2 things. That's okay. And then look around. Like just label 3 different things. So I see an espresso cup. I see my audio interface extension thing, and I see a glass. Okay, those are 3 things. And then I'm going to feel my body for 3 different things. So I feel that my right foot is on the floor, my left leg is crossed over. I feel like the pressure in my lower back against the chair, and I feel some tightness and tension in my neck. Those are 3 things. And that's a way just to get present. And then I can tell myself that that I'm in the future. That anxiety is in the future, and maybe I'll sort of reflect for a minute and either just be reminded that, and that will help, or maybe I'll say like, I really do need to call so and so, which is like maybe a kind of confrontational, whatever it is. Maybe it is something that I need to do soon, but a lot of times it's just like it is something that I don't have control of, but I'm able to get back in the present. And I'm gaining a very rapid sort of progression on that. And so just to kind of go back after this little sharing of this 3. So also Bertie Wooster in the chat says that they're familiar with this 3-3-3 technique and do a version for panic attacks, which is anxiety, a very strong feeling of anxiety, to ground them and get them out of that. And that's super cool. Very, very cool. Glad to hear it, Bertie Wooster. So just to get back to like the ketamine therapy. So I'm just doing the therapeutic work, that you would do with a therapist. And I'm trying to do all the other stuff. So a thing that I'm going to tie to music soon, just because this mode of working has been working great for me, is journaling. I have been finding journaling so awesome. And I think I talked about the Artist's Way on a previous live stream when I started it. I believe that was back in March. I think I started on the Artist's Way, and I haven't not progressed past chapter 3. But what I did do a lot is the morning pages, which you're supposed to do upon waking, the first thing. You grab your journal or notebook or whatever, and you just write nonstop stream of consciousness until you've filled 3 pages. And then you can stop or you could keep going. And you're not supposed to like edit or even like reflect too much. I think you're just supposed to like just go. And I have been doing a version of that with this ketamine therapy treatment, and it's been so helpful. And I would say that is like where a lot of the help for me is coming from. Of course, as along with like the therapeutic work, like the internal family systems work with the therapy that I'm doing. And then also this other secondary therapist. I know you guys are going to be like, I can't afford all this therapy. Just listen and just explore and like do what you can. But, or don't do anything. Maybe it's not the right time. But there's also like a therapist through the ketamine clinic that is a specialist in psychedelic therapy, which is really cool because when you do the ketamine therapy, you trip balls, I would say. Like, and by that's a phrase that I mean, have a really like very vibrant, I'll say. I don't want to say extreme because it's like not scary. That was a really cool thing about it is like none of this for me was scary, although they did check in and asked if it was overwhelming. So I assume for some people it is, but for me, none of them were. They were all actually either very pleasant to like awesome, like a fun time, and filled or possessing a lot of like very things that were expressions of my subconscious trying to tell me things. Like there was a moment that my relationship with my mother is a big source for my therapy that I won't go into, but just to say, like, there was a moment at which I had this vision of walking hand in hand with my mother, kind of like briefly visualizing this kind of almost Emerald City, like almost something from like Wizard of Oz mixed with like Blade Runner sort of a thing. And it was a feeling of like ease with her, and not like the not ease from my childhood that permeates my memory and my body now. And that was therapeutic in a way that is hard to explain using maybe whatever like conventional therapy. And so like in the first therapy session, I had this vision of a space baby, like sort of a vast darkness of space. And then this like almost like illuminated like giant baby. That's me. And it represents, and this is a very trippy, if anyone's done psychedelics out there, it's like, I could describe it as that. I think there's a name for it I learned called transpersonal therapy, or psyche, whatever. Anyways, transpersonal is the name for it. And that means like sort of these big, like just beyond sort of Freudian, or like this is because of my relationship with this family, this caregiver, this parent, or like, you know, it's like these big, huge existential things that are in what I experienced very therapeutic. Like the space baby thing has been less impactful as time has gone on, but it's still a really powerful vision that I can still feel. And when I recall, and it represents this like, and it wasn't like placed there or led there, it just came about. And it's something that gives me an idea of myself without maybe the shaping of my childhood upbringing with all the people in that like I have issues with, and without society, like without like maybe these like roles and identities of society, hats, clothes, you could use a metaphor for them. And it's just like, oh, it's just Dallas, like Dallas's free impulses, like my beautiful self, like without having to be anything for anybody, without having to second guess, without having to want for something I didn't get at some time from somebody. And that's a very useful and helpful revelation, you might say, to have, or like an archetype to be able to call up again. And there are many, many others. And the advice that I was given from this psychedelic therapist was set an intention before each one of these ketamine sessions. And I did. And this therapist gave me a short YouTube video by somebody giving advice for people who do ayahuasca. But the therapist said that this same advice applies to all therapeutic, all psychedelic therapies. And I'm not a person that has dabbled in psychedelics hardly at all. I'm not going to tell you what I have done or how much, but I'm just going to say not very much. And not really been, it's not like something like I'm dying to try. It's just, whatever. Everyone's kind of things are different. But I'm just saying all that to say, like, I haven't done ayahuasca and really uninformed about it. But the advice from this person for the ayahuasca ceremony that I did is that this person, I think I'm not sure if they're a therapist or not, but they said, phrase it as like to have something that's very easy to sort of remember and sort of focus on, at least at the beginning of your trip. The medicine is either show me, tell me, or help me. And then I believe it was like what was it after that? I should look up the notes. But one of them was like, show me how to love myself, which that is a huge thing that like got really clear for me. And I've been working really hard on, which is like self-love, and in very deep ways that are really awesome. And self-intimacy, like being able to be like emotionally intimate with myself, and like these really just like liking yourself, self-esteem stuff, but in these very deep ways that I won't go into. And I in a short amount of time, I feel like I've made some really cool progress, and I'm just in a different place. So I could talk like all day and all night about it, but I felt like it's important to share because it's a really very powerful thing that I did. I don't think I'm going to do it again because it was very expensive and it required like you can't drive yourself there because you've been under the effect of this ketamine for like my treatment was I'll describe it a little bit more before we watch a video of it. My place was in California because that's where I was, and you have to be treated in the state. Well, obviously you can't do IV ketamine and you have to go there because they hook you up to a tube and it's an IV. So it was really cool. The nurses, every time I went, it was a different nurse just about, but they were all super cool. Like it's California, like very kind of healing, hippie, like very kind people, gentle, made me feel super comfortable. And these are all, licensed, trained nurses. And the people that run it is a psychiatrist and an anesthesiologist. And that also affected me choosing this place because like those are two heavyweight degrees that like, these two people, and they both ended up being people that were really interested in addiction. Like the psychiatrist was an addiction specialist, and talking to the anesthesiologist, he was somebody that had dealt with addiction, which I think is really cool. Again, to go back to like, you want to be treated by people who understand you and your problems. And so anyways, the clinic, in the room, it was dark, and the advice was to wear like an eye mask, like a sleeping eye mask, which they provided, and to put on music. So I ended up using the playlist from the therapist. It was like this very like ambient, which was great. Because for me as a musician, my brain is gonna be like, that was a 4-chord. Oh, that's a suspension. Oh, that melody, you know what I mean? Like I'm gonna get distracted. Even if there's no lyrics, I'm gonna get distracted by too much music, or really any kind of harmony or melody. My brain's gonna start like trying to label it, So this was like very, very ambient, like super not much synthesizer-y stuff with like no percussion, no really defined rhythm at all. These kind of like big, like kind of pads, like if you had the synthesizer with the space string sound and you just like hit like 2 notes and then change 1 note in like a minute, like it was really, and that worked great. That worked really great. And then my subconscious and the drugs like just supplied all the other stuff. And they had this really neat little like light projector of like this like rainbow galaxy, spiral galaxy on the ceiling, and a comfortable like reclining easy chair. And they're super nice, and they put a little blanket on you, and they're talking really gently. And I don't look, and they put the thing in my arm, and then I put in my earbuds, and I hit play. And then after a few minutes, the drug is kicked in, and then I'm tripping balls. And then it's done. After 40 minutes, it's just basically a syringe on this machine, and they've put the amount of that they're going to give you over 40 minutes into the syringe, and then it's just the machine just over 40 minutes just pushes the plunger. That's it. And then at the end of that thing, then this little like thing sort of goes to tell the nurse like, hey, this is done. So then they come in and they check on you, and they peek at you like every so often, and if you feel like anxious or afraid, like they, depending on the nurse, but they'll give you like, okay, like the first one that I did alone, because the first 2 I did with the therapist in the room, which was cool, talking to me. And that experience was very different. I did not trip very much. I definitely did trip. Like that's when I saw the space baby, but also compared to the next 4 that I did alone with no talking to anybody, like real sensory deprivation sort of, although that sounds really like aggressive, but just in the dark with your eyes closed with headphones in, just being comfortable. That was the suggestion from everybody too, is like, that's the experience that you want. So, anyways, the first time I did that, I was like, the whole thing, you don't know what's going to happen. So you're like, you don't want to have a bad trip or any of that. And it's just the fear of the unknown. And mine all ended up being like better than good, just great, really. And left me feeling really wonderful. And like I said, like the overall effect, even I suspect that there's just like a lift that you get from the drug, which goes away. It's just like it does provide a sense of up, like as a byproduct or whatever. But that is momentary. And you can't drive yourself home, so you have to get an Uber back. Like I got a motel and stayed there. And I just used that time to just like meditate, like they said. So I've gotten back into a meditation practice. And a lot of you watching have known me for decades now. So you remember that I had another traumatic event that coincided with getting divorced, which sucked. That was really emotionally hard. And that coincided with me doing a 10-day silent meditation retreat, which is the meditation style that I've returned to for this meditating that I'm trying to do now. I do the morning pages and then I meditate. And I know that the meditation is so good for my anxiety. And I think just general everything. And I don't know, this happened to be in San Diego, which is a really beautiful place. So I went to the beach and sat on the beach and just heard the waves coming in and all that kind of stuff. I tried to maximize like just the fact that I was there and just to be present, which is not easy to do. Cool. So let's watch a little video and then let's listen to some music and then I'll come back and I want to talk about how I've been. Now that I'm back here and I'm sort of like not as consumed with the therapy, which was very consuming because like it takes up 2 days essentially, and traveling down there and all that sort of stuff, because it's about where I did the therapy is like 2 hours from where my dad's house is, or it's my house now. But so the whole thing was like a lot of schlepping, a lot of time. And now I'm just sort of starting to get like back into a normal routine and practicing. And I'm finding that there's a need to bring this presentness and this insight to my practice, because same values of self-love and working on anxiety and voices, critical voices are absolutely present with me, very strong. And I would suspect for you guys too. And I just want to talk about that. But before we do, let's first check out one of these videos about ketamine therapy. We may or may not watch all of it. And if you're new to this stream, this is different. I haven't ever talked about emotional health before. And I've never really talked about my personal life to this degree either. Let's see, what's a good one? There's not like a great one here. I think it must be over here. Let's start with this one a little bit, just because I like the way this guy really hypes it up.
Hi, I'm Dr. Anthony Cave, a Stanford and Harvard-trained anesthesiologist and integrative medicine specialist. In my ketamine infusion clinic, patients describe coming out feeling transformed, incredible, healed from the inside, optimistic, even unstuck. But what is ketamine? It's far more than a horse tranquilizer. And how does it help my patients overcome some of their deepest mental health struggles? We're going to talk about what ketamine is, how ketamine works to heal our mental and physical health, the different forms of ketamine like intravenous versus intramuscular, intranasal, etc., and what the risks of ketamine treatments are. Medicine's greatest secret is our inner healing potential, and it's most powerful under anesthesia, when we let go of the reality we think we know. There are rarely any golden bullets in medicine, and ketamine is no exception. One of the few golden bullets is when we tap into our inner healing potential to heal ourselves from the inside out. And that's what ketamine can do when used properly under medical supervision to help us tap into our inner healing potential. And that's how it helps my patients achieve things they never thought possible before they start their ketamine journey with me. So number one, what is ketamine? Ketamine is thought of as a horse tranquilizer because it's very effective at sedating animals with intramuscular injections. So if you can't get an IV line in an animal, like at the vet clinic or in a zoo, you can do what's called a ketamine dart, literally dart them with a bolus of ketamine and they can fall asleep. Now, in human beings, we usually use ketamine IV because during surgery or in the emergency room, when we're often using ketamine in humans, which we've been doing for decades, like 50 plus years, and very safely, we can better deliver it through an IV line because we have more control over how much is going into the bloodstream and ultimately affecting the brain. But if you've ever watched Jurassic Park or anything before, those darts they throw at the dinosaurs are probably ketamine darts, if the movie was real. So ketamine is actually an anesthetic that we use in the operating room and the emergency room even today because it has powerful properties that are different than other anesthetics, like propofol and anesthesia gases. Most importantly, even at relatively high doses, it still lets patients breathe, which is what makes it so powerful for cases of sedation, when you don't have a breathing tube that would breathe for you otherwise. We believe it acts primarily at the NMDA receptor, which is one of the many receptors in the brain, and affects the activity of glutamate, which is one of the many neurotransmitters in the brain. But realistically, we don't know how ketamine works because it affects so many different receptors all across the brain, and we only know a handful of them. We do know that it's very safe in little kids all the way up to older adults when used correctly at the right dose. And we know that its effects are very dose dependent, meaning that the effects that you get depend on the dose that you're given. The effects of ketamine at high doses are very different than the effects of ketamine at low doses. In particular, if a patient's getting a high dose of ketamine, like for me in the operating room, they might go fully to sleep and be rendered entirely unconscious. If they get a low to middle dose of ketamine, it can help with pain control, such as after surgery in the hospital, without putting them fully to sleep. If they get a low dose of ketamine, it can actually help induce what we call a dissociative state, which can help individuals enter a highly healing space. That's what we aim to accomplish in my ketamine infusion clinic. Getting that right dose, so it's not too far off one end, but it's just high enough to help patients enter that healing space within themselves. Next, what are the effects of ketamine? I mentioned earlier that it can be a general anesthetic because it affects many of the neurons in the brain and it can make you unconscious at high enough doses. At high enough doses, it will actually also turn off the breathing centers of the brain as well. Like I said earlier though, at middle doses, it can actually help give a good anti-pain effect while still letting patients breathe without giving them too many dissociative thoughts or putting them in an unpleasant mental space, like giving them a bad trip. But it's really the lower doses that we're interested in ketamine infusion clinics, and that's because they can help patients revisit themselves. They can help us enter a psychedelic state. At the most basic level, ketamine can be very helpful for any mental condition where we're stuck in a particular mindset. We call this cognitive rigidity. And one of my favorite sayings is how the willow reed can sway back and forth in a storm, but the mighty oak tree snaps its branches because that oak tree is rigid. It doesn't have flexibility to weather the storms that life throws at us. That's when a lot of mental health conditions can arise, either from storms from the inside or storms from the outside. Maybe from our past in childhood, what we call adverse childhood experiences, or at any other point in adolescence, in school, in our jobs, with our families, with our loved ones. The more flexible our minds are, the less likely, often not always, we are to fall into cognitive distortions that can wreak havoc on our mental and physical health. And it's at these low doses that ketamine can help induce persistent changes in self-representation. Really broadly, that means that it changes our relationship with ourself. It changes our perspective of ourself, how we fit in the world around us. And this can be incredibly healing when we're stuck in a place where our perspective is limited, where our focus is inward, where we're perseverating and ruminating over the same topics, either of the past, what we call depression, or of the future, what we call anxiety. Ketamine literally rewires the brain, what we call neuroplasticity. It softens our rigid behaviors, our rigid thought patterns to help us enter healing spaces where we can ultimately tap into our inner healing potential. And that's what makes ketamine
and that's what I found. So I'm just going to jump in and sort of yes and this doctor's presentation because I think it's very, very good or similar to my experience. So like that is the experience that I had. I know that there are many people who do ketamine therapy who or I have heard that there are many people who it just does stuff for them. And what I've heard and what I'm learning is that for those people that like they just do the session and then come back and do another session, and they're not like really working very, very hard on themselves, like doing all the therapy, journaling, the way one would work on to try to improve their emotional health, through whatever kind of therapies and stuff. People who aren't doing that will find that the effects can go away after time. And you have to have like maintenance doses and stuff. And that's something that I'm finding too, that I really did not know. That was not made clear to me beforehand, and how it might need to be, sort of regularly. And it's not cheap. I will say, for me, like mental health is pretty much at the top of my list, especially right now. So I'm interested to do that, to exchange what I have, what I can earn, my efforts and labor for this better feeling. Anyways, but just to yes and with like the doctors saying like that you can get all these like deeper insights into yourself. That is exactly my experience. Is like I've also heard it described like you can do like two years of therapy. What you might accomplish in 2 years of therapy, you can accomplish in 6 sessions of ketamine, which I did it basically in 2 weeks. That was the suggestion.
Potential silver or golden bullet, because it's something that we can take with us forever after, even after the number of infusions that we do with your doctors. This leads us to how ketamine works by softening us, by softening our mind, our rigid habit loops. When we talk about rigid habit loops, OCD or addiction often come to mind. But anxiety and depression have similar rigid habit loops that we fall into, rigid loops of perseveration and rumination that we find ourselves stuck in. Remember how I said that one of the powerful things that patients say after a ketamine journey is how unstuck they feel, how liberated they feel? They feel lighter, optimistic, at peace, connected. These are all by virtue of health.
I would absolutely say that. Like, it's still one thing I noticed that is whatever depression I felt, which I have experienced, especially like in college, I had a really huge, super depressive episode, like the biggest I've ever experienced in my life. And that's something that I measure against, and then I would say a couple other times, at least I've had some very severely impacting depressive episodes. And I don't think that I was in quite the same thing. I was stuck in a bunch of ways, but it wasn't the most depressed I've ever felt recently, that got me into it. But what I noticed, by session 2 or 3 through the ketamine therapy was like, oh, I was depressed because I notice how I feel different. And I think I had been various levels of depressed for at least 2 years before that, maybe about 3 years before that. Leading to like all this stuff with my dad passing away that like really just took that up to a whole nother level. And it's true, and that's what a lot of people say, is the ketamine is incredibly helpful, like magically helpful for depressed people and people that have what's called treatment-resistant depression.
Helping transition our inward-focused rumination and perseveration towards something with a greater perspective of the outside world, embracing our connection with the greater world around us, the people in it, the nature in it, the animals in it. There are many ways that we can fit into the world around us that separate us from that inward-focused suffering that many of us fall into. It's not blaming anyone, but it's recognizing the repeated characteristics that so many of my patients have before they start their ketamine journey. PTSD and pain have similar habit loops, and it's not a surprise that ketamine, when used in a holistic manner, in coordination with psychiatrists and therapists, in a compassionate way, can help many patients, even with chronic pain, have a different view of their pain and ultimately escape their pain.
That's something interesting too. And I will say, I believe there was a person in their 80s. I'm trying to remember how old the nurse, because the nurse told me, like, that there's another patient there at the same time as me. And they just told me, like, isn't that a cool thing, to see just such difference in generation there. And they told me that like people in their 70s and 80s have gone into these ketamine clinics and say like, I, have never felt this light and free my entire life, until this moment. So I don't know, anecdotal stuff. Let's just check out, I don't know, that's kind of enough about ketamine. I think that's enough. There are a ton of videos on it, and like that video is by a guy who runs a ketamine clinic, So of course he's going to be like an evangelist about it. I'm somebody who paid and did it and just out of it. So I'm an evangelist about it. The way people who are new to stuff usually tend to be the most vocal about how great it is. And then once you sit with it for a while, then you see, the shine, the blue, not the bloom is off the rose, but it's no longer a brand new car anymore. And I will report my progress to you guys in the spirit of truth and honesty and helping us all. It's therapeutic for me to share this too, because it is a real part. Like I said at the beginning of this is the spirit of what I do with my teaching through Rising Read, and the spirit of this live stream is about the life energy, to describe it, like the beauty, and the highs and the lows that music can express, like that life is ups and downs, and to be able to express them artistically, of course, is a really beautiful thing. And then to be able to, like, all of us struggle. And I know, so many of the people that I know are artists and musicians, and man, do I know a ton. So I just want to sort of tie this in now to like a new process that I'm doing, which is just based around journaling. So this is just a little like Dallas shares sort of like a teaching moment. And I offer it with just like, maybe let this spark any other ideas. And I'm curious if you guys want to like reply in the chat or anything. Usually the chat gets quiet about halfway through the stream, so that's fine. But so I started practicing again, and I hadn't, because it's just really out of my routine, with all the ketamine stuff for about 2 weeks. Although I did play a gig in the middle of it, which was awesome. That was really cool to do. So my experience for practicing is, I'm working on something and I'm excited about the thing, and then I'm trying it and it's not working, or I'm trying it and it's not working and I'm finding that there's something else not going right with it. And along the way, I start like sort of accumulating a number of negative statements that are happening rapidly. And I will say this is a new process for me. So I would say that I don't have a whole lot of experience working with them. So I will also share my journey into this with my methodology and like trying to improve on it. But basically, I get kind of fatigued and worn down by my own negative self-talk, and I get to a point where I feel no longer optimistic, but I feel like I can't do it. I start to feel sort of defeated, and I feel my concentration wane, and maybe I need to take a break or do something else. This isn't like, obviously this isn't all the time, but it's too much. It's more than should be. And I think that there's a lot of room for improvement here. I think my intuition is telling me there's a lot of room for improvement. I know a lot of the stuff to do, but up here, I'm getting in my own way. So what I decided to do was I decided to take the same spirit that I'm doing the journaling for, which is sort of just to ask myself the questions. So I started like doing this practice journaling. So it's like, okay, what is going on? And for me, to ask myself, like, what is going on? Like I was practicing, I'm trying to think what I was practicing. First, it was just returning to the 12 keys work on a really simple tune, like I've Got Rhythm. And then starting to work back on this awesome materials that I got from Jacques Mornay this summer at Cinema. This is the first page, and it's about his syncope, because I really want to get back into that. It was so cool, and I had made such progress on it. The way he manipulates the bellows to get accents and these beautiful shapes and the sort of volume and pressure of the notes, really, really cool. And just feeling frustrated, So I would take a step back and I would say, for all of us, for this, if you feel like this resonates for you, like what I would say, join me on the journey of like, we can improve it. And the first place to go is just to be like, okay, I'm going to try to improve it. That's the first step. It's just going like, it is something that I want to improve, and I'm just gonna put effort into it, you know. And if we can do that, then I think I believe in myself and all of us that we can make improvements. And then so from that point, cool. Birdie Worcester says they tell themselves progress and not perfection. Yeah, I think that's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And I would agree, like my sort of intuition and inner voices have a lot to do with this idea of perfection. And even if the word perfection is like, I'm not asking myself to be perfect, it's still that there's some sort of achievement that is based on, for me, something that has to do with self-esteem and self-worth in a way that it shouldn't be, you know? Like there is the more mature adult thing that I want to develop is that, you know, that I love myself unconditionally, and that this other stuff is cool. You know, it's like icing on the cake or whatever. It is not the cake itself. And that's being very vulnerable with everybody out there. That's being very open about my stuff that I'm working on right now. But suffice to say, my process, I'm really into, I like sort of feeling where the feelings in my body are, like tension and holding. Like I notice, oh, you're breathing shallow. Your neck or your throat is tight, or maybe something, you know, something like, oh, okay, cool. So I feel that. And then emotionally, or like I'm checking in with my self-talk. So what am I telling myself? And my process right now, which I'll update you guys on, and I'm interested again, if anybody does anything like this already or has heard any advice, is just to add journaling as part of the process. So because planning out our practice is what everybody who makes progress in music does, you know, at least to a certain point. You know, you might make great progress just going in there, but at a certain point, it's going to be no more returns, and you got to start to manage your practice and manage your practice time. And it's obvious why. So it's like, okay, I'm going to work on this particular thing. I'm trying to improve this. I'm going to work maybe for this long, or at least check in with myself after a certain amount of time. And this is what I'm hoping to achieve, you know. And then after that, I'm adding a step where I'm going to journal a little about it. And the frequency of that journaling I'm going to play with. I'm going to see like if I should just sort of like absorb a whole lot of this stuff and then journal a little bit after, or if I should do shorter like little chunks. Like maybe I should just practice for 10 minutes and then like take out the accordion and do a little bit of journaling, and then put it back on and do 10 more minutes and more journaling. I don't really know yet. But what I do know from the ketamine treatment is helping, and I would suggest that I would be really helped by this process even without the ketamine treatment, which is all of you because you guys aren't doing ketamine treatment. But I'm saying I don't think you need to do that to be under the ketamine to have effects. But what I'm trying to say is I know that like through the process of journaling, I'm getting these wonderful answers, like so much clarity is coming in this process for me. And journaling seems to be a great thing to get the ideas out, to get the subconscious out. So what I want to do is I want to like sort of label in my body where I feel it. I want to label what's going on. So like, what am I telling myself that is not helpful, you know? And then I want to sort of deliberately say something else to myself, or if like in this IFS way of doing things, internal family systems I was talking about earlier, you have all these parts. So it's like little versions of yourself. So like there's some little Dallas that's being like, you're not good enough. You're not good enough. You're not, you know, if you're not good enough, then this bad thing's going to happen or whatever. And like, so the process would be like, find that person, that version of me or whatever that voice is in this practice process, write it out. Oh yeah, I noticed that I'm feeling this, or sort of these things are happening. And what could I tell myself instead? Or what's behind that, you know? Like I said, like, does there need to be like just a little reminder that, you know, I love myself, or I'm good enough the way I am, and maybe I write that out or whatever. And I think that the more I do that, the stronger I will develop it. And that's also just something I'm working on in general, not related to music. But I think that I want and I am bringing that sort of method as a practice into my accordion music practice. And what I expect to happen is that the more I do it, the more I journal, the more I'll start to do it I'll be able to do it without journaling. And then the more I do it with sort of deliberately, but without journaling, then the more it will just sort of automatically happen. And the more that it automatically happens, then the less the other sort of very hypercritical voice will be there. And that's going to help a lot. And so that's essentially my approach right now, is to bring the journaling, which is working super good for me, into the practice of music process and just listening to my inner talk, essentially just that. And I feel like very confident, like just by acknowledging and saying like, I want to improve this, and here's a way that I'm trying, it will improve slowly. And I'm sure I'll, as with everything I do, and probably you guys too, I'll modify it and change it as I go. You know, I'll this works, but I want to try a little bit of this, or change when I do it or how I do it, and all that sort of stuff. But I expect it to get a lot better, as is everything else that's going on for me right now. So it's really cool. The final thing that I just wanted to bring up is the idea that like emotional health is based on a bunch of stuff, as is getting good at music. So emotional health, like maybe we say like emotional health, like one of the core things is like finding a therapist. Like, okay, that's like a very Western conventional thing. It's like, well, you know, we pay this doctor or medical professional who's an expert at this. And, you know, throughout the history of human beings, there have been people in a community who have been sort of specialized as healers of all different things. So you have like sweat lodges, ayahuasca ceremonies, all sorts of stuff, back way long before the idea of a psychologist or psychiatrist. That's one part, you know, and that takes a person being able to say, I want to improve this, and I want to trust somebody else to help me with it, you know, in this way. But there are many other things that we need to do, and I was reminded of those and have been reminded of these other things, and it felt really good to be reminded of them. And so I just want to bring them up right now. And so physical exercise is vital for emotional health, whatever it is, whatever we're capable of. But like, you know, all the studies show like cardio and like, you know, some sort of like strength training, all that stuff fires off the happy drugs. It makes our bodies work better. And it's necessary, you know, it's a necessary component to whatever level we are able to do it, you know, like if you're an 18-year-old does a certain thing and an 80-year-old does a certain thing, but they're both super, super important for all that. So that's a really necessary component. Oh yeah, cool. Courtney's jumping in. Yeah. Jumping in the middle here, but sounds like good stuff to be talking about and examining. Yeah. Well, if you're just jumping in now, you missed where I talked about that I just completed ketamine therapy, Courtney. And this whole stream has been just, you know, checking in on mental and emotional health and how we can work on it, and some on how it impacts us as musicians. But mostly just broad general stuff, and sharing my experience in ketamine therapy, which was really made huge impacts, and I feel really out of a rut and in a whole new direction with like a lot of momentum and very, very changed direction from, well, now I'm mixing metaphors, but you can rewatch the stream later to hear what I said. But anyway, like the different components. So like, then of course, like diet is super important. So if we're just eating McDonald's every single day, it's inevitable what that's going to do to the way we feel. It's core. So everybody's idea of what is their diet is different, you know, so you decide, but that's good. And I'm not saying these things for the first time. I'm just like, I have a friend who says magic must be spoken into the world to happen. Like, so this is, I'm making this, just speaking this into the world, because somebody spoken into the world at me, and I was like, yeah, that's great to be reminded of this stuff. A social life is vital, really vital for emotional, mental health, mental wellness. Having friends, like being able to do fun things, being able to see those friends or talk to those friends, being able to have like what I call confidants, which are people that you can just be like, here's this ugly, icky thing that I'm responsible for. Don't I suck? And they're like, yeah, you do suck. Haha, I love you. You know, like that level of being able to share, to bare your soul to a friend who will not judge you, but will commiserate with you and or help you or just listen without all that sort of stuff. Like, so vital to have emotional connections and to nourish and foster those. And as I say those things out to you again, I'm saying them back to myself. Like, these are all the things that I want to be doing more of, that because it's not just about going to ketamine therapy or just finding a therapist. It's about just having a life which is filled with the things that keep me mentally and emotionally healthy. And I can tell you guys in a very honest way that for a couple of years, I really didn't. And a lot of these areas I are not satisfying to me for various reasons, but ultimately my doing. So I can see that now. Another one that's really important is having hobbies, like having things. Like, for me as a musician, I don't know if you guys are like this too, like some of you like that are professional musicians like Courtney, or some people that are not, that don't earn their professional income and career as a musician, but dedicate so much love and time to it. But regardless, like, just even if you don't, no matter what you do, having hobbies, like things that bring you deep pleasure and satisfaction and fun and joy and all that sort of stuff, that are not based on your career, your avocation, like the way you pay your bills or your self-worth or any of that sort of stuff, like the striving, things that aren't related to striving to succeed. Or even if you have a job that you don't feel like that in, but this still like takes up a lot of your time, still having abundant things or enough things that make you feel balanced and supported and stuff. I'm going to check in with Courtney's chat. So Courtney says that he's into the philosophy of treating ourselves well and in getting over ourselves into holistic good shape. Yeah. And it has big payoffs in music. Yeah. As much as I love music and it makes me feel good. Yeah. Right. And he says, as much as he loves music and it makes him feel good, it can't fulfill all of his needs. And that's exactly, where I'm at too. And so a thing that I've found very recently over the last couple of years that is a great hobby for me, because I'm sort of a one-trick pony. Like, once I found the accordion, it's like, nope, I don't do piano anymore. I just do the accordion. That's what I do. I just want to get good. I'm not good enough. I just want to get better, which is not the perfect mindset for happiness. But like, I found dance, and dance has been really cool. And even like a really fun story in Palm Springs, I thought that I was going to take this partner's dance class of West Coast style swing. I've never danced swing, but I played a lot of swing. So I thought this would be perfect. And all across the US, you can find swing dances and stuff. So it's a very universal thing no matter where I'm traveling. And I showed up and it wasn't that at all. It was taught by this young man, a little bit younger than me, who just graduated with a master's in dance, Palestinian guy, so going through all this shit in his life. Beautiful guy, beautiful soul. And it turned out to be a modern contemporary dance, like Martha Graham movements and stuff like that. And I had never done anything like that. And I love it. And I can't wait to go back again. And I've, gone 4 or 5 times in a row. It's amazing. Anyways, in addition to trying salsa dancing and contra dancing, some other stuff. So I'm just labeling like some new hobbies that I found dance that are really cool for me. And I know all you guys are out there doing all kinds of cool stuff in this community. But let's see. I'm trying to think if there's other. I think those are the big things that are all like extracurriculars. So exercise, diet, your relationships, including like friendships, and stuff. Things where you have people to share yourself and that share themselves with you. And then hobbies, and of course work, like, having work that is not too stressful, that you don't hate, that you don't resent. That is easier said than done. And like, I won't even go into that, but all that sort of, sleep is the last one, sleep. So that's like, I can't think of anybody that I know that is like happy with the amount they sleep. That seems like a universal condition, but again, if we can start to watch it, then we can start to improve it. So those are the things, just to sort of like populate the rest of our, what makes emotional, mental health, for people, what makes us feel good and be able to feel better. So yeah, I just wanted to touch on those things because they felt good when somebody reminded me of all those. And I was like, oh yeah, like that's absolutely what I'm after, in addition to working on my old stuff, my old issues or my current issues or whatever. Like, it's these things too. And for me, a lot of them are not happening. You know, they have been in the past, and right now they're not. Nomad Farmer says they're so bad at sleep. Yeah, I know somebody close to me who's so bad at sleep also. And I have a couple friends who just are plagued with insomnia, and that sounds so horrible. I really empathize with them. It's tough. Cool. Okay. Well, that's my spiel, but we're not over with time. So let's listen to a few more videos. I want to play one that I put on here. That's Frank Petrilli and Ron Fund. I believe that's his name. Let me find the video here. And Frank is just, every time we hear Frank, he just sounds better and better and better. I mean, not like he needs to, but he's just, wow. So let's see. Let me find this one. Here it is. Yeah, just the two of these guys. So I believe Ron is originally from Israel, if I remember correctly. And Ron is a multi-instrumentalist. So Ron is on the right playing guitar. And I don't know if in this video he's going to switch to clarinet, but he's just bad dude at both of them. And Frank is playing the accordion, and that's, you know, Frank is a bad dude. And they're based out of LA and playing all the time in LA. So if you're anywhere, you know, if you're in the LA area, you should look up Frank Petrilli and find out where he's playing, because he's playing all the dang time. So here we go. This is a tune called Mambo Inn, which may be written by Mongo Santa Maria. I don't know. It's a real West Coast Latin jazz tune. So let's check this out. Or is it Cal Jader? I don't know. We'll find out. Oh, Mario Bausa. It's kind of like a samba, the way they're doing Hey.
Oh, the Ernie Police Quartet.
Amazing. Okay, cool. It's good. I mean, it's been a break from sort of listening to this kind of stuff, and it's so nourishing to me. I don't know if you guys feel like that, but when you listen to music that you just really love and enjoy, so nourishing. I find that I need it too. It's a necessary part of like my being a musician. Like if I'm not listening to music, I don't really feel like making it, which is kind of weird. I've kind of thought like, oh, should I? It's something I'm lacking, but I don't know. I don't know that that's worth going there with it. What's some other stuff that I put down here? Let's check out this. I think this is like gaucho music from the what's it? It was just escaped me. Corrientes area, like Argentina, I believe. Let's see. Is this? I'm just trying to see if this is Spanish or Portuguese. Looks like Portuguese, so maybe southern Brazil.
Eu sou o Gugu Gaiteiro, eu sou Milton, pai do Gugu Gaiteiro. Só que hoje, pessoal, nós estamos num lugar diferente, não estamos sentados no sofá, que nem é o normal.
All right, cool. Well, that's just like an hour-long live stream. Here, let's check out some more of this stuff. Everybody is like talking about this digital accordion. You know, I don't care about digital accordions. They don't do anything for me personally, but that's okay. That's allowed. And if you like the digital accordions, that's allowed too. Just not my thing. But let's watch this one. This is Paul Stenga, who we already watch on our live streams, where we subscribe to him, and he's got one of these chords that people are really digging. And so let's watch this one. I will say Yannicka and a lot of the dudes on the Yannicka channels are playing digital accordions most of the time these days. And I get really excited when there's videos where Yannicka is playing an acoustic accordion, but that's okay. All right, here we go. Is that the melody? Is that what he said? Not gonna sing that. Oh. I don't know. Paul's a bad dude, but it's just not my sound. Still sounds like a fake accordion. No offense to Paul at all. And I believe it's Paul that has all the awesome tutorials. I'm almost positive. Yeah, he does. They're so good. We got into those, I don't know, a year or more ago. They're super great. Shows you how to play all that stuff. Okay. Let's check out Ludovic. We haven't watched Ludovic in a while. So this one's called Passion. I assume this is the let's see, bum dum dee da little dum dee da la ba da da dee dee do da do. On a digital accordion also. Oh, maybe this song is called With Passion and not just Passion. Okay, it's beautiful. I love Ludovic. He's so good, but I just don't want to hear digital accordion right now. Okay. Here's Vladimir. Okay. So Vladimir is a teacher, a professor, they call it professor, at Cinema with Jacques and Natalie. And every time I've been there, he's been there. And he is a refugee from Ukraine. He has multiple university degrees, multiple master's degrees in music theory, music composition, and I believe accordion performance. He's also like a chess tournament winner, prize-winning chess player. He is a real I don't know if I would call him polymath, but and really an incredible person, and also going through a lot of stuff, to say the least. Anyways, really incredible musician who plays B system bayan, and here he is playing, and I'm not sure what he's going to play, but I'm excited. He plays with like so much passion.
Незнаними шляхами сорочку мати вишила мені і чорними, червоними, чорними нитками. Кольори мої, два кольори.
Okay, cool. That was really nice. All right, well, it's we started at a half hour after, and it's now 6 minutes after the half hour, so I'm going to say goodbye. Thanks, everybody. It was lovely again to spend this 2 hours with you. Next Tuesday, I don't know if I'm going to do the live stream, and the next Tuesday after that, I definitely will not do the live stream. But after that, we're going to be on, for this foreseeable future. I don't see any reasons why I will not live stream regularly through November, through December, into the new year and all that. These are so wonderful, and like the only interruptions are usually when I just got like major stuff going on. This was really fun to share with all of you. Thanks for listening and sticking around. And if anybody has any questions, if I can be of help for any of the topics that I shared today, feel free to email me privately, because I know that I have been helped so much by people who just have done it before me or have a little bit. It's all this stuff can be overwhelming, especially if you are already feeling overwhelmed. So I just want to really say, and you can get a hold of me on risingreed.com if you don't otherwise already know how to get a hold of me. You'll of course have my complete confidentiality, and if I can be a friend and help in that way, I would love to. We're all this just big beautiful community, of accordion music lovers and stuff. So I wish you all the best, and I'll email you. You can get on the email list also. I have one free course on blues, and now that I'm done with the ketamine therapy, I'm really excited and motivated to finish up this other course I was telling everybody about, the jazz chords course. So be well, take care of yourself, take care of your friends, and play a lot of accordion and listen to a